Greetings, this is Matt Faiello, and I'm a technical marketing engineer with the Cisco Cloud Networking Compute BU, and we're back with another Intersight Managed Mode Expert Series video. Today's video will be one of our server policies that gets attached to the server profile or server profile template. Specifically, we'll be talking about the Fiber Channel QoS policy. Now, this policy is an embedded policy. As you build out a SAN connectivity policy and you start adding VHBAs to your SAN connectivity policy, you'll have the ability to attach this Fiber Channel QoS policy to each VHBA. So our normal routine here of let's review several slides to introduce the policy and then follow that up with a short demonstration. Okay, so before we delve into the Fiber Channel QoS policy, let's just level set on server policies in general. So within Intersight today, there's 38 total policies. Now this can be subject to change as we introduce new functionalities. We might introduce a new policy, but today there's 38, and this encompasses Intersight infrastructure service. So not only the Intersight Managed Mode, IMM, FI attached blade servers, but also the standalone C-Series servers as well. Okay, so on this slide here, I've highlighted certain policies. Now these policies apply to like standalone C-Series and or the domain policies, which we've already covered. So we're not going to focus on these policies for this particular series. We're talking about Intersight Managed Mode. So FI attached, chassis blades, compute nodes for X-Series, as well as C-Series servers that are connected directly to the FI or through effects. So that leaves us with 29 total policies that we'll cover in this series. Now, you can find the Fiber Channel QoS policy easily by going to Infrastructure Service, okay, and then go down to the policies. And then if we do a filter here on UCS Server, we can see the highlighted Fiber Channel QoS policy. Okay, so as far as particulars about this Fiber Channel QoS server policy, we're not going to spend a ton of time because the defaults are pretty well done, and the chances of you doing something outside of what the default settings are more on the slim side. Okay, you can configure this policy per VHBA as part of your SAN connectivity policy. It does work in conjunction with the system QoS policy, which is a domain policy, part of the domain profile, gets pushed down to the fabric interconnects. And as far as the parameters for quality of service, priority, bandwidth, rate limiting, max data field size, burst, and no drop behavior, only bandwidth, rate limiting, max data field size, and burst can be configured within this Fiber Channel QoS server policy. The parameters of priority, okay, and no drop behavior, that's already baked into the system QoS policy by default. In other words, Fiber Channel is going to get its due. Okay, you can't change that. Okay, it's going to get its reserved bandwidth as part of the internal piping. It is going to get its correct priority, and it will be no drop. Okay, you can't change that. So, even though there's 8 total classes and 2 of them are internal, you don't really even see those, leaving 6 usable classes, okay, 2 of which can be no drop. Well, one of those 2 is in fact Fiber Channel, and that is just the way it is. So it becomes very easy to configure this policy because a lot of it between the defaults on the Fiber Channel server policy side and also what's defaulted on the system QoS side with the domain policy, pretty much the settings are the way they should be. Certainly, if you're going to change anything in this policy, consult your SAN administrator. Okay, moving on. Is the Fiber Channel QoS server policy required? No, it's not absolutely required. In other words, you can, in fact, have a successful server profile deployment with the absence of this policy, as opposed to the system QoS policy on the domain profile side, that is an absolute requirement. In other words, if you try to deploy a domain profile to a pair of FIs and you do not have a system QoS policy, it will error out. It will fail. As far as recommendations, we've kind of already talked about that. Just keep the default settings. And just keep in mind that some of these parameters, okay, for quality service are in fact baked into the defaults of that system QoS policy. Okay, so what I've done here is shown you a verification step for your fiber channel QoS policy settings. So in other words, we can query the Redfish API and my command string here using some curl command. Of course, get the admin account and password from my my local user policy that I push down with the server profile to that server, so that gives me access through the CIMC and my server CIMC IP address, which comes from the IMC access policy. Okay. Also going to need to know the serial number or the ID of the server itself. Okay. As well as the device ID of the VIC. Okay. And you'll notice that I'm querying against VHBA 0. So a lot of my use cases, I'll have two VHBAs, one for A fabric, one for B fabric. So VHBA 0 or FC 0, a VHBA 1 or FC 1. Going to A fabric, B fabric, so whatever your use case is there. But you do the query, you can see that the class of service shows up. That's actually defined by the system QoS policy as part of the domain profile. And then as we go down, you can actually see the data field size, which is the default value for fiber channel 2112. You can actually see that. That's defined in the Ethernet QoS server policy. As with all IMM Expert Series videos, I like to include a slide with a graphic of how the policy relates to the server profile template or server profile. So in our case, we have the server profile template on the left side there. We're going to add in a SAN connectivity policy, okay, to that template. And then as we build out the SAN connectivity policy, when we go to add our VHBAs as part of that policy, then we'll have the option of selecting a fiber channel QoS policy per VHBA. Okay, so we are now in Intersight for our demonstration, and we are at Infrastructure Service, and we go down and select Policies and create a new policy. I'm going to filter down to UCS Server Policies, and then there's my fiber channel QoS, and click Start. I want to use a meaningful name. Click Next. And I like to orient towards the platform type up here. For instance, we're dealing with UCS Server FI attached. Okay. Notice the priority is grayed out. That's because that priority is being set with your domain QoS system policy that's part of your domain profile. Okay, so you're not, as we talked previous on the slides, we're not actually setting the priority, as opposed to UCS Server Standalone. You are in fact dictating the class of service here because you're not being plumbed through FIs. You're going directly to Intersight. So let's go back to our UCS Server FI attached, and I'm just going to keep the defaults here and click Create. Okay, and we can see that we have our policy created. Okay, as far as verification goes, I've utilized that curl command that I showed in the slides. Let's go ahead and execute that. And here's our output. And if we scroll up just a little bit, we can see that we have our class of service, which is defined by the system QoS domain policy. That's part of the domain profile. But if we go down further here, we can see our max data field size of 2112. That's actually defined by the FC Ethernet QoS policy, the policy in question here that we're discussing in this video. Okay, so just a way of verifying at the endpoint what the settings should be. And that completes our video today about Fiber Channel QoS server policies. I hope you were able to pick up a few tips to assist you in your implementation of Intersight Managed Mode. Stay tuned for more Intersight Managed Mode Expert Series videos, and thank you for your attention.